Hey guys, this is Brad from Blue Nile Farm. Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to talk about my Redhawk 8-ton fertilizer lime spreader, and it's made by Stolfus. And it's something that I've been looking at for a long period of time. I wanted to get a wet lime spreader because I got tired of dealing with co-ops and the headaches with them as far as getting out of my fields when I wanted stuff done, and as well as the cost. So I wound up investing in this spreader to reduce the cost and get stuff done the way I want it done. So with that said, let's get to it. I'm going to show you a quick walk around about the machine and what it's all about. So the reason I wound up getting a wet lime spreader is because, one, wet lime's pretty cheap around by me. Number two is before I was doing Pell lime, it was like $136 a ton, whereas I can get egg lime for anywhere between $10 and $15 a ton delivered. So it's a lot cheaper. The only downfall is I have to sit there and load up my own spreader and spread it myself. But at least I got a little bit more control of what's going down in my fields. One of the biggest things that has been hurting me in my hay production is the fertility end. And it's something that I think most of us, we put on the back burner when we get started, because we put all our money into the actual hay equipment and the tractors and the mowers and the tedders and rakes and so on and so forth. And fertility is something that gets pretty pricey when you have to deal with co-ops. So a lot of times the fertility end goes on the backside, and that's mostly for us small farmers. If you're a big time farmer, you know the importance of it, and it's just part of doing business. But when you're starting out, it's really kind of tough to get going. And it finally took me numerous years to the point where I'm done. I'm going to start doing this myself. I want to jack up my fertility. I want to increase my yields and do it the right way. So kind of doing a little half-ass backwards, but that's okay because I'm finally doing it. And that's why I went out and bought this. Now I was looking for a machine that's mostly for wet lime. That's my priority. Fertilizer really isn't the big priority right now, but if I have the ability to do both and save a little bit of money, why not do that? So I found this Stolfus. I've been pricing them to around $35,000, $38,000 new. I wound up finding this one that's an 8-ton. And that was bigger than I was hoping to get because I was starting to look at the prices. And I was going to settle for a 5-ton new one because I couldn't afford one. And I was looking just at a wet lime spreader. I was looking at the Redhawks, and there it's a different model. And they're really to do both fertilizer and lime. And I thought, well, for the money, it's probably more cost effective for me just to rent the lime spreader. But I found this lime spreader on Facebook Marketplace. It popped up, and within 12 hours I basically bought it. And I had to jump on it because the price was right. And they advertised it as a 1998 Stolfus, so it had been over 25 years old, and it's in really impeccable shape. But basically, when I looked at the manual, it says it's a 2007. So I only paid $12,000. It was a great purchase. I'm happy about it, and I'm going to kind of show you what I bought for 12 grand. And it was definitely worth the money, and I can't argue with that. So I saved myself over $20-some thousand not buying a brand new one, so it's a win. So with that said, today we're going to spread wet lime. I got 60 tons sitting on the ground here behind the tractor and the spreader, and my skid steer's on the other side, and we're going to be loading that up. But before I get it all dirty and messy, I kind of want to do a quick walk around and show you about the spreader, what it has to offer. This is not a pitch for Stolfus, but I was looking for a really good machine that had steep slopes and steep sides, and it was known for wet lime. And it seemed like Stolfus was one of the best out there. So I think I did the right thing, and I'm very happy with my purchase. So let me show you what it's all about. So first thing, when we talk about the steel that's made on this, that's basically Core 10, which is basically used in shipping containers. And it basically is a steel that holds up real well, and it might get a rusty appearance over time, but basically it's part of its structure. It makes it very strong. So it's not something that's easily eaten through by the lime. Secondly, the welds on this machine are continuous. They're not just spot welded. They're continuous welds all the way across all the seams. So I thought that makes it a well-built machine. This one here has 21.5-inch tires, so it's really big and floaty, and I kind of like that because it's able to run across the ground well and not create compaction issues, and ruts in my field. So I kind of like that as well. So let me take you around and just kind of show you. The one downfall on this unit being older, it doesn't have a hitch where I can adjust the height. So it kind of slopes down a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be the end of the world. You basically have to have two remotes to run this. One of the remotes runs the drive wheel, because there is no PTO with this. It's based on the drive wheel, and the other one controls the spinners. So I have hydraulic spinners. So right here is the valve. This valve here controls the speed of the spinners, and here you have to choose between an open and closed system on your tractor, so it gets the proper flow. As we walk around the side here, and this is the driver's side, that is the drive wheel. It is hydraulically put between the tires, and that's what activates the chain on the floor, which is what you see under here. Now as we walk around here, we have two chains, one on one side and one on the other. So one here and one here, and those basically control the speed of the machine, and I'll kind of show you that here in a little bit. We'll get to that. When we talk about the chain here, it is a 24-inch width chain, and it will work for both, like I said, lime and fertilizer, and it works out real well. And my floor has a poly, it's a poly floor, so it's plastic, it's very thick, and it runs across the whole bottom of the machine. So what's nice is that the lime slides right across without a problem. This one has a new bearing on it, so obviously they had a bearing issue at one time. But I have dual spinners, both of them are hydraulic. And on this side, there's really not a whole bunch to it other than the same kind of gears. So let's go back and let's talk about the chain and the chain drive so you understand the speed control. So when you're in the back of the machine, there's really two sets of gears. There's a set of gears on your left side, there's an outside and an inside. And when you go on the other side, you also have a set of gears. You have an inside and an outside. So basically the combination that you put inside and outside is going to dictate your speed choice. There's a chart up here on the top that talks about the lime and fertilizer and its application. It talks about gate height. It talks about if it's in low drive, high drive, or low. And basically here it tells you about the speed range. What high is means you have an inside pair on the left side and inside pair on the right side. So what that means is that if we're looking at this left gear, the chain needs to be on this inside gear, and the chain needs to be on this inside gear, which it is not. If we wanted low, we need it to be on the inside gear, but we also need it to be on the outside gear, and that's what it's actually set for. And if we wanted it to be on low, we need it to be on this outside gear and that outside gear. And that is according to this chart. And based upon that chart and the height and density and your speed is going to dictate what you're going to put down. And that's really what it gets down to. And we're going to assume that I'm going to go about 4 to 5 miles an hour at the right speed. And our hydraulics that throw our spinners are going to be based upon how fast that gate's moving. And that's going to dictate what we do. Now obviously you should calibrate this. I'm not doing that this time, but you should calibrate it and make sure that what you're throwing down is accurate. And that's a whole different ball game. So I'm not going to really go through the calibration aspect of it, because we really don't have a lot of time today to screw around with that. But right now, because my fields are so non-fertile, you know, putting down a ton of lime just so I get through till next year is all that matters. But this is the unit on the outside. Let me show you what it looks like inside. So looking in, you can actually see, and there's a little bit of shade here. Down here on the floor, that's a poly floor. You can see it between the ribs. There's a chain that goes completely through it. There is a cover, or you can call it a bridge, for fertilizer that goes in here. And you could put that in, but you really don't want to do that for lime. The bridge needs to be completely outer cover, so it's been removed. I have a cross member here that's kind of holding things up. This is an 8-ton hopper, like I said, so it can hold a good weight. And you can see how clean it is. And the Core 10 steel that they use is supposed to have a little rusty look to it. So the previous owner really kept this clean, kept it in mint condition, and I'm very, very happy with my purchase. So this was definitely a good purchase all the way around. So with that said, I'm going to start loading this up. I'm going to put a little bit of lime in here, and we'll see what happens. So 5 loads with the skid steer, 5 buckets. Looks like we did a pretty good job on our hopper. And I'm guessing it's pretty full. So I think we should be good to go. So here's our shot in our hopper. It looks like we're pretty full. We'll run out to a field and we're going to start probably put a ton down per acre. I was going to put 1,000 pounds per acre, but I think these fields have not seen fertilizer or lime, well, at least lime, I know in probably 40, 50 years, so it's well overdue. So yesterday was day 1, and it was the first time I've ever spread lime, let alone using my new spreader. And I'm pretty happy with what the spreader actually did, but there's a few realizations I want to point out. One, from my understanding, is 4.5 to 5 miles an hour is kind of like the standard speed that some of this calibration comes up. But unless you calibrate these things, you really don't know what you're putting down. So the first fields I attacked really had no lime put to them for many, many, many years. And even though I seeded the fields, I never was able to get lime down the way I would like to. So I want to talk about calibration and tonnage real fast and what I've been putting down. So I started off starting at setting 5 because gear that I'm in is low gear, and I'm planning on going about 5 miles an hour. So I was thinking that, you know, I should be set just pretty close. And at 5, it says I should be putting 2,080 pounds down. I'm sure I put down probably 3,500 pounds down, and that is just because it seemed like I was going through it. Now, the reason why I think I was going through so much is, one, you know, lime has different density every time you get it. Some could be more wetter than others, and I think the wetter it is, the more it might flow a little bit better. So I think that was part of the issue. Secondly, I didn't calibrate, so I had no clue what I was doing. I was just taking a stab in the dark. And third, you know, when you go spread lime, just like any other fertilizer, you want a 50% overlap. So I may go down and it may say this thing spreads 40 foot. That means every 20 feet I should be going up and down the row and getting that 50% overlap. So my overlap might have been a little closer, you know, based upon distance. You know, some of these fields were kind of long. You know, maybe I was putting down too much because I wasn't over far enough. You know, again, these are the variables. But they really didn't matter because the fields that I did put down heavy, around 3,500 pounds maybe, it's not going to hurt it because it was so lime deficient. So then I went to another field that I kind of took a little bit more care of and stayed on it a little bit better with lime. I dropped down to setting number 4, which said I should be putting around 1,800 pounds to the acre. And what turned out that I was probably putting about 1.5 tons. So I was actually getting a little bit closer. I was putting down maybe 2,750, but I was definitely over 1 ton. So this time we're going to go back out, and I'm going to do a fields that are normally more prolific. I'm going to drop down to setting number 3, and it says I should be putting around 1,200 pounds down. I'm thinking, based upon everything I've been doing with my speed, my dump, and everything, I think I'm probably going to put down exactly around 1 ton. So I have enough pretty much to do the fields that I have, putting down about 1 ton per acre. Let's see how that goes, and that should be the calibration. So, you know, don't assume that everything's working out perfectly based upon what your, you know, these meters, what they tell you. You know, you're going to have to figure it out for yourself, but every batch is going to be a little bit different. And, you know, one thing with lime is you can't put too much down, but when you know you're deficient, you know, you're going to be good to go, even if you put a little bit more down, because it's going to give it more time to react. You know, my goal is to put enough down to get it working, and then I can just put enough down annually, so it's more of a maintenance program. I do not, now that I own my own spreader, my plan is not to lime every 3 or 4 years and let this thing sit. My plan is to annually put down lime and putting down maybe 1,000, 1,500 pounds per year versus putting down 3 or 4 or 2 or 3 or 4 ton. You know, that's a lot of lime. And, you know, that's really what it comes down to. But again, my soil test will tell me where I'm at next year. And then I'll at least have to keep a record of every field that I'm doing, how much I'm actually putting down, because that'll give me at least an idea of where I'm at for the future. Lime is a very, very messy business. Its stuff sticks to everything. So the last thing I wanted to do is keep my machine and my spreader sitting outside overnight because of the dew, and it might harden up the lime. So what I wound up doing is taking it home. I made sure this thing was empty, even though I have lime residue. we're going to go back out today and run it. I'm not going to do a thorough cleaning of it till we're done. By the end of the day, I'm hoping that I'm going to be done with the lime till later on next week. So we're going to give it a thorough cleaning. But, you know, today we're going to go back out, like I said, and we're going to spread in these fields. I'm going to try to give you some shots the best I can of this thing in action so you kind of get to see it spreading. And we'll see how that goes. But other than that, I'm pretty happy with the unit. I think it's really doing a good job. I'm definitely getting lime down. I think I moved about 45 ton yesterday, give or take, 45, 50 ton. So I have a couple piles. One's getting delivered today, another 25 ton in another field that is fallow, and it's going to need a lot. And I might jump it up to around the 4 or 5 setting. And this fields that I'm doing today, they're the fields I've been taking care of. They're some of my better yielders. So I'm going to tone it down a little bit and see what happens. Other than that, that's kind of what's happening for the day. Spreader so far is doing a good job. And, you know, that's kind of where we're at. But, you know, until you calibrate these things properly, you're never really going to know. And I need to have a day that I can sit there and figure out how far this thing's actually spreading. And I need to figure out, too, what I'm actually putting down. But, you know, guessing where we're at right now, it's not so harmful with the lime because I know I'm so deficient. But I want to put enough down that I'm going to see some good results for next year. So hitting some of these fields heavy is definitely not a bad thing. And I think then I can do more on the maintenance side. And that's kind of where I'm going. And I am submitting soil tests on all my fields. And I'm sure they're going to come back lime deficient. So I'm not really too worried about thinking I'm doing something wrong. So, you know, lime is cheap. And lime is something that you should be putting down first before you worry about fertility, because you're going to lose so much money from my research if you don't have the proper pH. So, number one, get on this lime kick. You know, don't worry about fertilizers as much, because if you don't have a proper pH, you're pissing money down the drain with fertilizer. And that's something that I've learned, where it could be even in the hundreds of dollars per acre you're wasting because it's not be able to react. It just sits there. So lime, getting that pH is very, very important. And, you know, I may not see dramatic benefits this year, coming year, but I'm sure in the following couple years, 2 to 3 years, you know, with a proper pH and staying on top of this, these fields should really blow up. And that's what my goal is. You know, there's no sense in my mind to farm a lot of acres if you're not getting a lot of tonnage. And the more tonnage I can get off my hay fields, the better off I am. So, you know, I'd rather do 100 acres of hay and get high tonnage than to do 200 acres of hay and getting poor tonnage, because I'm wasting more time and effort, you know, going in the field to harvest. And, you know, when we're in a field to do hay, you know, it takes 4 or 5 trips just to make a harvest, you know, between cutting it and tedding it and raking it and baling it and removing the hay out of it. It's crazy. And, you know, you're wasting money if you're not getting the most optimum you can out of it. And I understand if you're a small farmer, you know, if you're only doing 10, 20 acres of hay, it doesn't really matter to you, but it really should, because if you can get the best hay possible and the most tonnage, you're going to get more benefit for what you're doing. Even if you're feeding your own animals, why not? You know, it's kind of silly not taking care of your own property. You know, the fields that I'm doing right now are not my fields. They're other people's fields, but I'm still wasting my time going out there, so I might as well use the cheapest insurance possible, and that's putting down lime. And because lime is cheap, and now that I own my own spreader, I can justify the cost effectiveness of doing this, because it definitely pays. So, again, let's get out in the field and see where we go today. Yesterday we had a really good day of spreading lime. Everything was going good until I blew a line at the bottom of my Oliver 1855. Basically we lost all our power steering driving from one field to the other. They actually blew on a road, and I kind of coasted into this field, and which is on the main drag. Basically was lucky to even steer it in here, so because I lost full control of power steering. So I have 5 gallons of hydraulic fluid later and a new line. This is not the new line, and we're good to go. So we took a cover, we covered up our lime last night. The reason why we did that is because of the dew. I didn't want any hardening to take place on the lime, and we're going to start spreading. I got basically 2 loads, this one and one more in this field, and then pretty much out of lime. So basically almost 100 ton of lime has been spread in the last 3 days, and I'm pretty happy with that. So with that said, I'm going to start spreading this lime, and hopefully it all goes smooth. And then when we're done, after the end of the day, we're going to be washing this out and get this thing clean and put away for a little bit, even if it might be only for a week. But you know, you don't want to let lime sit in your spreader. All it's going to do is eat it up. So I'm off, and let's get this spread. Hey guys, thanks for watching a video on my Stolfus 8-ton lime and fertilizer spreader, which is the Redhawk series. You know, this is the first time I've ever used lime spreader. I feel like a pro now. I really like this spreader. I think it was really nice without having the PTO. I was a little bit optimistic at first on how this thing works, but once you learn how to drop the tire down and it just engages the chain, and then all you have to do is use your hydraulics to put on your spinners, it's easy peasy. And it worked out really good. I really enjoyed running this. I think it really managed wet lime, and this was the first time I've ever did wet lime. I really managed it real well, and it took care of a lot of the clods. Now, if there's a few that got through that were big and they get stuck in the back end, you know, you eventually catch it or they eventually get broken down. But for the most part, it was a really good experience, and I really liked the Stolfus. I didn't have any bridging problems. I didn't have any problems with it really sticking. It worked out really well. So stay tuned for the next video. We're going to talk about how to clean this and oil it and how to maintain this. And this is a very important video that you guys should be following up on because every one of you that owns a lime spreader or a fertilizer spreader for that matter needs to really take care of it because, you know, it doesn't matter the year that you purchase it. It's how you maintain it. And, you know, a lot of times you see them at co-ops and stuff that they're beat to death, you know, and I don't think there's probably any farm piece of equipment that will depreciate quicker than a fertilizer or lime spreader just because it gets eaten apart by people not taking care of it. So again, stay tuned for the next video on how to clean and oil this lime and fertilizer spreader, and I think it'll take you to a new level when it comes down to taking care of your equipment. So with that said, thanks for watching guys, and I'll talk to you soon.